So far, I have to say this generation in particular, Xbox is sort of up and down. I was originally not going to buy an Xbox Series X at launch. Then they decided to buy ZeniMax like literally right before pre-orders opened up, and so I was like, okay, what the hell? I'll go out and I'll grab one, pre-order for one, and so that's how I kind of went about it. Originally, I was just gonna have a PlayStation 5 at launch. It wasn't, the main reason being is that Microsoft had a real lack of software. Their lineup was kind of already known, and there was nothing there from like the first party. We didn't know what was really coming. I mean, they had announced a bunch of games and stuff, but even in this day, right now in 2025, there's games that they announced back then that still haven't come out and that we've not even seen gameplay for. So, it's really hard to trust Xbox. And, when stuff like this comes out, you just sort of shake your head because it really showcases, I think, in my opinion, the lack of leadership, because that's the only explanation for this, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey everyone, I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews with another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. It helps out the channel. It means a lot to me personally if you guys could do that. Now, as we kind of go along with this stuff and as we see, a lot of these things kind of come about, I do daily gaming content, so if you're looking for fun yet informative videos, then look no further. This is really, just how it kind of goes, and I enjoy doing these videos, so thank you guys. Now, this actually kind of came out while I was kind of on my little sabbatical. Nobody knows how many consoles have sold in terms of like Xbox consoles or whatever the case may be, but we kind of had an idea, and I was always kind of riding this train that we saw this slide from I think 2022 that said they were at 21 million, and we know that they basically pulled out a lot of different places, and just by doing kind of the math, it was easy to see that they were under 30 million units. And now there's kind of some more confirmation on that. So, renowned AMD leaker Kepler L2 has revealed a series of posts on a board that Xbox Series X and S consoles have sold less than 30 million units, according to estimates based on AMD sales data. He says they aren't even at 30 million. You don't need third-party trackers. You can use AMD's numbers and Sony's numbers to figure out Xbox sales. Steam Deck is part of SCBU and counted as a console. Van Gogh and all its variants were developed by SCBU, a semi-custom business unit, and fall under the same reporting as the consoles. Z1, Z2 are repurposed laptop chips and fall under the client segment. It's also important to note that AMD's number is higher than what Sony and Xbox would count as unit sales, since it includes chips sold but still in flight, i.e. being assembled somewhere. So Q3, 1 million console units with 66 million PS5, 4 million Steam Deck would put Series X and S at a maximum of 29 million. Quarter 4, 100 million units sold with 75 million PS5, 4 million Steam Deck means Xbox sold a minimum of 21 million units. So Xbox sales for this gen range from a minimum of 21 million to a maximum of 29 million. This means that the PlayStation 5 could have around 3 times the install base of Microsoft's Xbox consoles. The choice to create a lower price model, the Series S, was not nearly enough to stop the constantly dwindling sales. Even in the last otherwise profitable quarter, Xbox hardware sales decreased yet again 22% on a year-over-year basis. At the least, Xbox Series S and X are not sold at a loss anymore, according to Kepler 2, unlike Sony's PlayStation 5. PS5 had a brief period of being profitable, but then component prices went up. N7 wafers, GDDR6, and a few others, and it went right back to losing money. As far as I know, the regular PS5 is still sold at a minor loss. Only the PS5 Pro is profitable. They did a die shrink for the Series X and raised prices. It should be profitable now. So yeah, I mean, Microsoft raised their prices by $100. Kind of crazy to think that Sony still hasn't matched that or done anything to realistically change that. But yeah, I mean, to me anyway, it's really kind of a weird situation that we find ourselves in, because Microsoft has realistically done not a lot to sell their console. They really go out of their way to make it kind of look like, they don't care if you buy their console. They don't care, if they sell their consoles and things like that. I really feel like that's something that, they kind of have struggled with in the past. And that is just they've not necessarily done a good job at marketing themselves. And, I feel like the Series X is probably the best console that they've ever released, but they really hampered themselves by not having, like a newer controller with like haptic feedbacks or like a newer UI and things like that. That's really kind of a negative thing, in my opinion, that they're kind of dealing with. And, for me anyway, the way I look at these things and I go, okay, well, what does that mean for the future? I mean, listen, there's a point where it doesn't make sense, and we're already starting to see rumors that they might not do like a traditional console. For me personally, I only have interest in them if they're doing a traditional console. Like, I don't really care about, a mini PC or anything like that. So, keep that in mind as we kind of go along or whatever. I get that some people might claim that that's a big deal or whatever the case may be, but for me, it's not. I really would hope that they would be able to kind of, get some things rolling in a positive way for the fans. It's like, instead, here we are, and we're kind of just looking at, Xbox sales that are sort of tanking. And, again, when you look at how Microsoft has kind of handled this generation, it's just not handled it very well, at all. It's sort of weird that this has kind of happened the way that it has. And, at the end of the day, Microsoft, I think, is going to they're going to do what they want to do. But I also just feel like, that there's gamers that kind of want to, just a traditional like Xbox console. And Microsoft has never really had a strong first party in the last couple generations, except for, I would say, the launch of the Xbox One. They had a pretty decent group of launch titles that entire year. The year one titles included, and not just first party, but second party as well. They did like Dead Rising 3 and Rise and Sunset Overdrive and Killer Instinct, and they had a really decent lineup, and so that was really nice to see. And they haven't really had that since that point. The best that they've had recently, I think you have to go back to 2021. And that's when they ended that year with, Psychonauts 2, Flight Simulator, Halo Infinite, and Forza Horizon 5. And, people really responded. That was like the best-selling Xbox has ever had for a holiday at that particular point. So, yeah, it's very interesting the way that that kind of came about. And, and it's also interesting that people go, oh, well, Microsoft, they've tried this or they tried that. Like, they really haven't. That's the thing that I always kind of point out, is like they haven't really tried. And it's really unfortunate the way that that's kind of gone, because if they had tried, we might see a little bit different result than what we're seeing right now. Because I think there's a way where you can have some multi-platform games, but you can also have a situation where where you actually are doing your best to kind of try and get people, interested in the platform itself, and I think that's what we need to see more than anything, is just that, hey, Xbox is actually out there trying. They're trying to attract gamers. They're trying to get people interested in, in the future of the platform again. So, again, I think it takes games to be able to do that. Maybe we'll get something like that in the future, but yeah, I mean, like, it doesn't look good from where we're sitting right here, at least from what I can tell, Like, trust me, I get the point that, okay, how does that affect your fun if you're an Xbox fan or whatever, but I do feel like it does affect a large part of, everything. If the console's not selling well, like, it affects the future. It affects pretty much everything in between as well. So, anyway, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. You still want things to do good, like, regardless. You know what I mean? If you're an Xbox fan, you should want these things to sell, because then Microsoft can continue to reinvest in it and actually believe in the platform, instead of, just looking at it as like a dying platform or whatever. So, anyway, I'll link this story in the description. You can let me know what you think. Rack them up. Fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys all have a great day. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.